So, Osiris here with Terra Preta, and today we have a visualization of different soil compositions. And this is a pretty easy test that you can do called a jar test. Quite simple. You take samples from wherever it is you're trying to test, scoop it up till about halfway full of the dirt, and then you fill up the rest of that with the tap water that you're going to be mixing it in with, and then at the very end, you mix in a little bit of dish soap. The dish soap is important because when soil are in natural conditions, they're going to be all mixed together and bound, different sticky substances or compressed together over time. And the soap quite literally just breaks everything apart. It separates it into all these distinct layers. So you shake it up like crazy and then you let it settle for about a day. The first thing that settles is going to be your heaviest. And in Florida, it's going to be our primary composition. That's going to be our sand, because you measure soils in sand, silt, and clay, or organic matter, because we don't really have much again in Florida. So the other thing that we would have is a lot of our rich organic matters. That's what's going to be floating along the top, sometimes along in the bottom. That is our rich, high in carbons. That's why it's very light and it floats to the top. But if you're interested in ever trying to figure out your soil composition, you can see based on, in different conditions, you would get different compositions. This one is about 50% sand, about 40% silt, and then a little bit in between, maybe 1 to 2% organic matter and clay. So almost primarily the mix of these two. This one, almost entirely sand, a little bit of silt, and then a little bit more organic matter along in the top. This was taken from the same property, but actually in the front and in the backyard. And we were seeing different conditions based upon that. So, different compositions, different weeds, different plants. The grasses were actually struggling more along in the backyard, and it was because you had too sandy of a soil. So, that is why we test the composition.